Deputy John Norsworthy succumbed to injuries sustained in an automobile accident on December 27, 2010. He was en route to back up another officer on a traffic stop when his patrol car left the roadway and struck a tree. Deputy Norsworthy was trapped in his vehicle for almost an hour before rescue crews could free him. He was flown to a hospital in Houston where he remained until succumbing to his injuries. Deputy Norsworthy had served with the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office for 2 years and had previously served with the Rosenberg Police Department. He is survived by his wife, 2 children, and parents. Officer Kevin Marceau died as a result of injuries sustained on November 13, 1996, when he was struck by a vehicle while chasing a hit-and-run suspect. He was working an off-duty job when he observed a car accident. He began to chase one of the drivers on foot as the man attempted to flee the scene. As they ran across the road, Officer Marceau was struck by a vehicle. The officer was rushed to a nearby hospital where he remained in a coma for several weeks due to severe head injuries. He underwent several surgeries in which part of his brain was removed. He remained in a wheelchair and unable to communicate until passing away from complications of the injuries on January 14, 2011. Officer Marceau was a U.S. Air Force veteran and had served with the Dallas Police Department for 7 years. He is survived by his son, parents, and 4 siblings. Officer Stephanie Brown was killed when her patrol car was struck by a drunk driver while she was responding to another call. As she responded to the call, a man driving the wrong way on I-35 struck her patrol car head-on. She was transported to University Hospital where she succumbed to her injuries. The driver of the other vehicle died at the scene. Officer Brown had served with the San Antonio Police Department for 3 years. She is survived by her 1-year-old daughter and her father, who is also a San Antonio police officer. Deputy Sheriff Robert Britton succumbed to injuries sustained 4 days earlier when he was attacked by an injured cow while directing traffic around the animal. He had responded to the scene after a vehicle struck and injured the cow, and as he directed traffic around the animal, it charged him and knocked him into the air. He landed on his head and suffered severe head injuries. The cow continued attacking him until other deputies were able to pull him to safety. Deputy Britton was transported to East Texas Medical Center where he remained until succumbing to his injuries. Deputy Britton had served with the Smith County Sheriff's Office for 19 years. He is survived by his 2 children. Deputy Sherry Jones was shot and killed in the basement of the Bowie County Courthouse while preparing to transport a prisoner. She was moving the prisoner from a courtroom to a transportation van to drive him to a state facility when he attacked her. She was overpowered and fatally shot with her own gun. The prisoner then stole the transport van and fled to Arkansas, where he was taken into custody. Deputy Jones had served with the Bowie County Sheriff's Department for 6 years. Deputy Clifton Taylor was shot and killed after he and other deputies responded to a domestic disturbance call. Upon arriving at the scene, the deputies began searching for the male subject. Deputy Taylor was shot as he opened the door to a shed located near the property. The other deputies returned fire and killed the suspect. Deputy Taylor was transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his wounds. Deputy Taylor had served with the Johnson County Sheriff's Office for 3 years. He is survived by his fiancée, parents, and siblings. Corrections Officer Craig Orrell suffered a fatal heart attack while jogging during an annual physical fitness test at the Edmundo Morelos Academy in Beeville, Texas. He had served in the U.S. Army and had worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Field Force Connolly Unit. He is survived by his parents and siblings and his son and daughter. Sergeant Kenneth Vann was shot and killed in an ambush while stopped at a red light on May 28, 2011. He was responding to a non-emergency call and had stopped at a red light. A car pulled up next to his patrol car on the passenger side and the occupant immediately opened fire with no warning. Sergeant Vann was struck by multiple shots. His patrol car rolled through the intersection and was stopped by crash barriers. He succumbed to his wounds before arriving at a local hospital. The shooter fled the scene in the vehicle and remained at large for a week. He was arrested on June 5, 2011 when law enforcement officers raided his home and subsequently charged with capital murder. Sergeant Vann was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and had served with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office for over 24 years. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. His wife also serves with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. Police officer Kevin Will was struck and killed by a drunk driver as he investigated a hit-and-run accident involving a motorcyclist. Officer Will was interviewing a witness to the motorcycle accident when a drunk driver drove around barriers and emergency vehicles that were blocking the closed freeway. Seeing the vehicle approach, Officer Will warned the witness to jump out of the way. The citizen was able to jump to safety moments before Officer Will was struck and killed. The driver was taken into custody at the scene and was charged with intoxicated manslaughter with Officer Will's death. It was later discovered that the suspect had entered and was living in the United States illegally. Officer Will had served with the Houston Police Department for almost 2 years. He is survived by his expectant wife, 2 children, parents, and brother. Deputy Charles Van Meter was killed in an automobile accident on June 26, 2011. An eastbound pickup truck caused a collision when it turned left to enter a gas station, failing to yield to the oncoming patrol car. Deputy Van Meter, the passenger in the patrol car, sustained fatal injuries and died at the scene. His partner was flown to a hospital in critical condition. Deputy Van Meter had served with the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office for 5 years. He is survived by his parents, sister, and grandparents. Police officer Brian Hebert was killed when his patrol car was intentionally struck by the driver of another vehicle during a pursuit. Other officers had initiated the pursuit of a man wanted for assaulting his mother and grandmother. Officer Hebert had stopped his patrol car and was removing a reflective vest and stop sticks from his trunk when the suspect veered from the travel lane and struck his patrol car head-on. The collision knocked the patrol car into Officer Hebert, who was still standing behind it. Officer Hebert was transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. The driver of the vehicle is facing capital murder charges in connection with Officer Hebert's death. Officer Hebert had served with the Beaumont Police Department for 10 years. He is survived by his parents, sister, and grandparents. Sergeant Mark Scianna was killed in an automobile accident on August 27, 2011. He had activated his emergency equipment and attempted to turn onto George Road when his vehicle left the roadway and struck a utility pole. The impact caused Sergeant Scianna to be ejected from the vehicle, which then rolled over and struck a second utility pole. Dispatchers were alerted to the crash when Sergeant Scianna's emergency button was activated on his portable radio. Bystanders also called 911 to report the crash and attempted to douse the flames with a garden hose until emergency crews arrived. Sergeant Scianna was pronounced dead at the scene. Sergeant Scianna had served with the Bexar County Precinct 3 Constable's Office for 2 years. He had previously served with the Castle Hills Police Department for 10 years and the New Britain, Connecticut Police Department, and had served as an officer for nearly 28 years in total. He is survived by his 3 sons. Corporal Kevin Agner passed away while assisting residents in an area devastated by wildfire. He was working his post on Wharton Cove when he began to have trouble breathing. He was flown to Seton Medical Center where he later died. Corporal Agner had served with the Travis County Precinct 2 Constable's Office for 12 years and had served in law enforcement for a total of 15 years. He is survived by his wife, 2 sons, 2 daughters, parents, and 2 sisters. Senior police officer Jaime Padron was shot and killed after responding to a Walmart store on the I-35 frontage road to investigate reports of an intoxicated man who was shoplifting on April 6, 2012. Upon arriving at the scene, Officer Padron spoke with 2 employees and then tried to stop the man as he attempted to leave the store. The subject immediately attempted to flee on foot but was tackled by Officer Padron and they both fell to the ground. During the ensuing struggle, the man produced a small handgun from his pocket, shot Officer Padron in the vest and the neck, and then fired at the store employees. 2 Walmart employees tackled the suspect and held him down, and then used Officer Padron's radio to notify dispatchers of the shooting. They held him down until responding units arrived and placed him under arrest. He was subsequently charged with capital murder. Officer Padron succumbed to his wounds at the scene. Officer Padron was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and had served with the Austin Police Department for 3 years. He had previously served with the Austin Airport Police Department and the San Angelo Police Department for 14 years. He is survived by his 2 young daughters, Ariana and Olivia, their mother, Amy, and his parents.